Please note that this video contains spoilers for the subject and the series and/or franchise leading up to this entry. Put off by how long this video is? Don't worry, I try to jam-pack my videos with as much content and as much detail as I possibly can. Anything I feel I can comment on and that I feel you might be interested in, I pretty much put in the video. I try not to repeat myself and talk fairly fast. I either have or will cover other parts of this franchise, and this video either is or will be linked below. I'm not going to restate here what I did or will say in the other video. These videos get long enough as it is. I got this either as a present or I got it on discount, so I did not pay very much money for this and am thus not bitter on account of that. And here we go. Machete Kills movie thoughts. Jumping right into notes taken while watching, and right off the bat I will be quoting lines in this movie, so including swearing. And I also want to say right off the bat, I really loved this movie. This was incredibly enjoyable. Now, let's see. Great trailer for the third movie, and love the lightsaber machete. It only took 3 movies for Machete to go into space. Every action and horror franchise ends up there eventually. And I love that you have 2 ICE agents, each with a pistol, and everyone in the military just gives up. You know, literally, if the military people, if they started to try to shoot, you know, there's no way. Well, it's Machete, so obviously he would be able to, but they don't know that yet. Don't call me sweetie. Oh, barbed wire reference. I approve. We're 5 minutes in, and 3 different groups of armed individuals have appeared in, you know, plot twist. And actually, with the trailer, isn't it more like 2.5 minutes of movie? So less than a minute for new armed group. And I might be slightly off on that, but I think somewhere around that. Is the masked wrestler using Han Solo's gun? Well, close approximation of it, anyway. Copyright and all. When I noted that, I did not realize how much Star Wars stuff there would be in this movie. Great opening action scene. And Machete is hanging there, following William Sadler with his eyes. Very, very cool. Doesn't ever die. Damn sure not the governor. It's the president. And he shoots the rope, of course. In the opening credits, the silhouette of a woman spreads her legs and out comes a knife. That's, wow. And Southwest Wing, very, yeah. And President Charlie Sheen swears almost as much as Nixon, or real-life Charlie Sheen. And I was expecting the following scene not to show up in the movie, so I noted it here, but later it did show up. I love the bit in the trailer where, you know, phone rings, one woman picks it up, hands it to another one, hands it to another woman, hands it to Charlie Sheen. This is the president. Just, that's, yeah. And Miss San Antonio. I love the intentionally horrible continuity of how she's holding the microphone. It's completely unnecessary to even cut. You know, it's not as if Amber Heard couldn't have memorized all these lines. You know, so yeah, they keep cutting, and like her hand, like if okay, what am I gonna use? Yeah, just you know, she's either like holding all the way up right under the part you speak into, or she's holding like way down, and that's still looking really sexual. I suppose this particular video doesn't exactly, it fits. And of course, she turns out to be Machete's contact. I love the gun display she opens, and the Swiss Army knife of machetes is awesome. Put on your 3D glasses and over 3D sex scene. Love it. I love Sofia Vergara's opening speech. And just immediately she's shooting at him, and she's got knives in her bra that fire at just, yeah. And all the prostitutes have guns. Very Sin City. Vergara actually did give him the right room number. Just, she didn't have to do that. You know, she could easily have sent him to like a room that was full of people who were going to shoot, or like a room where you open the door and it triggers a grenade or something. You know, nope. She gives him the right room number. I really love Vanessa Hudgens' sob story about her boss. And we meet Zaror, which is actually the actor's last name, so I suppose it's possible that Rodriguez, or one of the other writers, wrote the role for him, like how Rodriguez wrote the role for Steve Buscemi in Desperado and just called him Buscemi. And I looked Zaror up afterwards. You know, he is an actual martial artist, so that it makes a lot of sense to cast. You know, he doesn't have to do a lot of acting, so just making sure the camera's still running. Yep, it's still. Yep. And Zaror shoots Vanessa after she said she was, you know, she was super important to, you know, Mendes. And they really do raise their hands and are then shot. Only person to be sung songs about around here is me. And the you know, the missile is like, what is it, Dead Man's Switch, kind of, you know, hooked into his heart. Correction 1. And Zara's got moves, but then, you know, immediately, like, Machete cuts his stomach and, you know, countdown starts. And then Zara turns out to still be alive and can fight fairly decently still. And then he's cut apart on the helicopter rotors. And around here I noted, so far I like it a lot better than the first one. I think I wrote some about that at the end of this section of notes anyway, but yeah, I really love this one. Watching the first one again, which I did like Wednesday, yeah, I think, you know, Tuesday, whatever, one of these days, you know, I did enjoy the first one a lot more, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next section, but yeah, you know, I had the wrong attitude when I watched when I reviewed the first one, and when I watched it the first time. I do really love that one now, but I find this one much better. But yeah, and it turns out Mendes' base is in this Aztec temple. Just, yeah, I think it's Aztec. I'm not Mayan, possibly, but. And one of the guys on the boat is grappled into helicopter rotors, and the helicopter explodes. This is basically a Just Cause movie at this point. And a handful more guys killed by rotors. I'm starting to think that Robert Rodriguez took a bet or something. Possibly lost a bet. And Mendes has multiple personalities. It's you know, yeah. Action movies that try to be edgy like to do this sort of, you know, really offensive thing of like taking something that in real life is like super debilitating and like making it funny, or the, like, you know, the second Crank movie, you know, it also does this with the guy who's got like, what is it? He's got, I think, Tourette's. Yeah, still recording. Tourette's and some other, like, I forget, but yeah. And I love the cheesy countdown. And Michelle Rodriguez, I will say, I just rewatched I watched it when they originally put it up, the Midnight Screenings video on this movie, and yeah, you know, they didn't like the movie. I love it, but they do make some good points. One of them is, you know, I'm not gonna be, I try these days not to repeat what others have already said, unless I have some, you know, if I really, if I have something to add, or like I really disagree with, you know, and or the like. But yeah, they make the point that, you know, when Michelle Rodriguez is introduced, before she really appears in the movie, you know, the first couple of times we see her, yeah, she's just like staring at a bunch of screens, and then it cuts back to Machete. And yeah, that is, I have to agree. That's, it's a bit, and they point out that the effects, you know, it's CG instead of practical, when a bunch of it could have been practical. Like, you know, they mention, oh, you know, how do you do practical of like a body, you know, turning inside out and such. I would say if you do several different practical, you know, you can't do it in one, I don't think, with practical, but several different practical that you know, cover the different parts, and then you either cut to reaction shot, which is what you used to do when you had to use practical, you know, maybe a combination of, and or you use CG to make it seamless, to cut, you know, in like the way old days, you know, like I think Wolfman transformation, for example, really old days. Yeah, they basically just faded between the different, you know, shots, because they couldn't, yeah, how else were they going to do it? And, you know, today you wouldn't, like, you certainly wouldn't fade the entire image, but back then they had to. But yeah, you know, maybe some fading, some CGI to cover the fading, something like that. Again, or just cut to reaction shots. I really don't think that that's a bad, the moment you cut to a reaction shot, you ground it for the audience anyway. You know, the moment we see a human, I went over this before, but yeah, so that's how I would. Nevertheless, Michelle Rodriguez, every frame without her is worse off for it. I may possibly have a crush on her, but I maintain that she is awesome. And Walton Goggins, and he's going into a bar ordering a beer, very desperado, and he just shoots everyone and removes his face, and it turns out it was Cuba Gooding Jr. the whole time, just completely nonsense. They could have, like later on, you know, it also turns into Antonio Banderas, you know, excuse me, Walton Goggins becoming Antonio Banderas, becoming Cuba Gooding, that would have been somewhat easier to swallow. I love that they specifically didn't do that, that they have such a white guy turn into such a black guy, turn into a Latino, you know, and then before Antonio Banderas, you know, Cuba Gooding becomes Lady Gaga. It's just completely absurd. I love it. And turns out that Vergara castrated her father, who was molesting her. That's at least one step above even Dredd's villain. I forget her name, or even the actress's name, even though I like her a lot. But, you know, I love that back, you know, I love this. Now, wait, when did Dredd come out? Did it come out? I guess Dredd came out after this, didn't it? This came out in 2013. No, wait, no. I think Dredd came out before, but I forget. But anyway, love them both. And Mendes immediately tries to give himself up. I really, really like Mendes. The bar they go into, Mendes and Machete, reminds me a lot of one of the El Mariachi bars, which is probably intentional. And, you know, he says in, like, I forget if it's commentary track for El Mariachi, something that he says, you know, all the bars in Mexico actually look like this. But I maintain that, you know, he still filmed a lot of very different looking bars in, yeah, the Mariachi trilogy. So, yeah. I see them pulling guns, knives, starting some shit. First, last, and only secret agent. Wow. It's a Mexican standoff. God damn it, stop pointing that gun, my Mendez! I really love that he... If there had been one more person, it would have been an actual Mexican standoff, but instead, oh, it's two Mexicans aiming at each other, must be a Mexican standoff. And he punches his face to death. Oh, never mind, the cop wasn't dead, and then he gets killed. And, you know, they do the classic of, you know, spreading gas in a place that is about to be shot by, you know, bad guys. So yeah, is the Cuba Gooding Jr. character is he's called like the chameleon, isn't he? El Chameleon. I'm gonna go with the American term. I have no idea where to put the. I might put the emphasis in the wrong part of the sentence. Ah, crap! I butchered that. Sorry about that. The chameleon, is he supposed to be like that? And Anton Chigurh, I think is the name, the bad guy from No Country for Old Men. I know that movie only from like clips and video reviews and such, but he really reminded, you know, going up to someone and talking very casually to them. Although I suppose there's some of that in Johnny Depp's character in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, but it really reminds me of that, and I love how quirky they make him here. The whole thing with learning Spanish via listening to a CD. He's like, not by choice, but I cannot figure out how to change the CD. When he first said that, I was like, well, okay, but then you see, nope, he was absolutely serious about that. And again, it's such a, who would think to put a CD of teaching someone, you know, Spanish via English language in this scene of people shooting at each other. Just, yeah, it's very Rodriguez. Although again, it's written by at least one person who is not a Rodriguez. When I say Rodriguez in this video, I'm talking about Robert, if I don't specify otherwise. And yeah, and here we have, you know, that wasn't Cuba Gooding Jr. at all. That was Lady Gaga the entire time. A completely seamless transition, and it's such a like glamour shot of her. You know, she's adjusting her boobs, and we see, you know, a nice full shot of her in the dress. It's just completely absurd. Absolutely love it. Ladies, please, this is a hospital. You'd probably be wearing scrubs or something. And exploding blood pack, that really is nasty. And tiny Gatling guns in a metal bra, and then he shocks her with the pads, I forget what it's called. Good Mendez backstory. I really like Mendez, both personalities, and all three personalities we meet on later. This will do. Machete's not easily impressed. And one of them blew the guy up. You know, he got the, you're not going to shoot someone in a wheelchair, are you? No. And he shoots the can, and, you know, gets, and it just drives really fast out, and then they shoot him, and one of them actually shoots him with, like, a rocket. Just, yeah. And then it has, you know, Está la muerte. You are dead. Very good timing on the CD. And the strap-on gun is hilarious. Although, I have to agree. I don't really agree with the midnight screens. I don't think they need to explain these things, really. I think that's part of the charm of the movie, that a lot of these things do go unexplained. Yeah, agree to disagree. But I would say, I think it would have been cool if it actually hit something. That's my one caveat on the strap-on gun. But it also, you know, I really like how just Rodriguez keeps bringing it back. You know, it's in, let's see, which one came out first? I guess Desperado was the first time we saw it, but there we didn't see it used. I think it was like a deleted scene or something, but I haven't seen it. I'm still recording. And then it's actually used in From Dusk Till Dawn, and now it shows up again, and just, yeah. And that's, I mean, it made me laugh harder in this than it did in From Dusk Till Dawn, and I do like From Dusk Till Dawn a lot. What a tasteful use of the Spy Kids theme, I think. Specifically the theme, not just part of the score, but yeah. That's why they call it a wall, goddammit! We built the tunnels when they built the wall. Are you listening, Trump? How many of you are there? I'm afraid that's classified. And Zara is back, and I honestly for a little while thought it was going to be completely unexplained, but, and I do also want, I considered putting this in the notes about the clones, but it really reminded me of Spy Kids 1 with the thumb men and the, you know, just this completely wacky sci-fi stuff that's pretty improbable but a lot of fun. It's not impossible that I'll at some point rewatch that and do a video on it, but I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I hear that the third one and the fourth one especially are bad, and it's the kind of thing where I want to do the series, and then I'm also not that into, you know, yeah, kids movies, you know, especially ones that are so overtly kids movies. Like, I can get into something like The Never-Ending Story. Love the first Never-Ending Story. I'll admit it's been years. You know, there was this article on like Cracked or College Humor about how, no, you forgot how depressing that movie is. I probably did forget, but I'm pretty sure I would still love it. I mean the you know, is it rock biter? It's something rock something. Just these look like big, strong hands, don't they? Just, yeah, really, really good stuff. And such amazing acting from the childlike Empress. Just, yeah. It's not impossible that I'll at some point do a video on that. I haven't decided. But yeah, Zara is back, and Mendez dies, and Machete is shot. And, you know, you have the political ad for the president with, you know, defending the Second Amendment with a vengeance, and he made marijuana legal in 48 states, pointing out that, yeah, it would raise revenue and, you know, taxing. Yeah, a name you like, a face you can trust, and they're keeping Mendez's heart alive. That's, wow. And Vaz turned out to be the person who invented the missile, so he's the one person who can still disarm it. Yes, I'm a Star Wars fan. Again, I'm sorry, the Midnight Screens, I loved it. I thought that was hilarious. That just, yeah, he's got a land speeder. He likes Star Wars. You know, just, I'm sorry. If you knew how to work technology, how to invent stuff, are you seriously telling me you would not build a land speeder? I'm sorry. Just don't even try to convince me. You're never going to. That is just not possible. That's just, you know, I mean, I think, I'm not sure it would be my personal first choice. You know, it's not there are probably other sci-fi vehicles that you know, that would, yeah, honestly, I think I might, I would build for show. It wouldn't, you know, be a weapon at all or something, but I think I'd build myself a you know, maybe I'd remove the guns just to make it completely clear this is not dangerous. I'd build a tank HK from the first Terminator movie, I think, with, you know, and possibly pave part of my lab with, again, if it was human skulls, it would be maybe like just, I don't know, cobblestones or something, but just that would probably be my first pick. That's, yeah, if I had to choose a driving vehicle from a sci-fi movie that I would build if I could. Now, and turns out Zara was working for Vaz. That's, yeah. And Vaz can literally see the future. I love how, you know, every time there's something like Gibson, he plays it. He really goes for that, and they've got the little music cue for it, and it's like, I did not see that coming in this movie. I did not expect for the bad guy to be able to, and again, completely unexplained. He doesn't even say what happened. He just says what I refer to as the incident. And there's no explanation for how he can suddenly see the future. But he can. And he's like, well, guess Earth's fucked. I'm gonna go into space. Just, yeah, that's really funny and good setup for the third one. I will admit, I would have really respected Rodriguez for not having any setup for space in this one, and for the third one just having space. Like, if you had this entire movie and there was no space stuff, no sci-fi stuff, and then at the end, like, you know, just for you know, just like, maybe not even explain how Machete got into space. Just have the third one, like, have it. You know, when you watch like Once Upon a Time in Mexico, it's like, you know, Rodriguez himself says this. It's like there was a movie in between Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and occasionally you'll see like flashbacks to that movie. You know, yeah, just have the third movie set in space and nobody explain how everyone's suddenly in space. I think that would have been hilarious, but I can understand why they maybe thought that would have been pushing it too far. And Machete gets the electrified machete. Now I know we're in a video game. I'm pretty sure I made at least one electrified machete in one of my playthroughs of Dead Island. And Zaro versus Machete round 2, and then there's 3 of them, and you know, the one guy kicks his leg into the machete, so that comes off, and you know, Gibson, I'm left to regret my choice. I'm sorry, I may have overreacted. Nah, you think? Nah, no, that's a perfectly natural reaction to a guy about to drop, what was it, 1787, insert wine name here, I'm not a wine guy. And turns out there are way more missiles. And Vaz, like, easily dodges, you know, Machete does the, I forget exactly what it was. I think it's like a gas canister of some kind. It like chops bone. Yeah, and he's like firing it out of the thing, you know. A really cool improvised weapon. And Vaz is like, really, this? And just easily dodges, just, yeah. And then he's like dual wielding these sci-fi guns, and you know, and you've got the gun that turns things inside out, and he was like, you know, you had to pick the one gun that doesn't work, and he's starting, you know, Machete starts turning human beings inside out, and the other guy's like, okay, fuck this, and just, you know, getting out of there. And it was just absolutely awesome death scenes. And again, I wish it was practical effects instead of CG, but I'll take it. And he turns the car inside out, and they walk out, and they're all Brundle-flied, if-eyed, and decapitation spin, just, yeah, with the, you know, with the helicopter. And I would have to agree with the midnight screening. You can barely see what he's doing at first, and maybe that's part of the idea, I guess, but I think it would have been really cool to do like a slow-mo shot that made it incredibly... You don't have to make it a long one, just briefly show him starting to spin and cutting off one head, and then go to the regular shot as it's in the movie. Then the audience would know exactly what's going on, but as it is a little... What is... Wait, what? Just... What is he... You almost only realize what happened after it happened, and again, I think that is probably an intentional exploitation grindhouse kind of, you know, reference that it, yeah, because some of these movies, it is like, well, what just happened? You know, they wrote a scene that they clearly couldn't make, you know, look even remotely convincing, so they just kind of show the you know, a few parts that they could, you know. And Michelle Rodriguez saves him. I don't mean to be a pig, but she looks amazing in this movie. I'm sorry. And really all the women in this do. And, you know, I mean, ultimately, it's, you know, as a feminist, overall, I think I've reached the, you know, there's that thing of, like, do you think, you know, attractive women really sexualized, being badasses in action movies and such, is it empowering or is it objectifying? I think I would have to go with objectifying, though I think I used to think it was empowering. But if you're gonna do it, do it right. And this movie really does. Every single one of them looks amazing. Aliens abducted by aliens, and you literally see they're like zapped away, and then he's like, and sorry, she's like, possibly he needs the Mexican labor to finish. See, I mean, isn't that one of the only references to how, the first one has line after line about, oh, yeah, and like, characters and such, oh man, Mexicans, they do all the work, which they do a ton of work in the US. But I just feel like it was way over the top in the first one. I think this one, isn't that really the only reference to Mexican work? And it's pitch perfect. I find that such, I mean, in the Midnight Screen, they also talk about why is Machete here. It's about the fun side characters. And yeah, the first one is very much, it's Machete's movie because he's doing, he's fighting for Mexico. And he's fighting, this bad guy that's really tied to this Mexican backstory and this whole, with the cartels and all this stuff. And then in this movie, I mean, they even say, wait, we're the network. Why do we care about America all of a sudden? We're about Mexico. And then she's like, no world, no Mexico. And it's just, yeah, and that happens in these schlocky sequels. It's like, this is not even the. I get you wanted to make a different movie. I mean, why could Freddy Krueger suddenly just possess a human body without any dreaming being necessary? Why did Jason Voorhees suddenly hop a boat to, was in Manhattan or something? These, they wanted to make that movie, and, well, I mean, Freddy Krueger's got a movie coming up. Let's put him in this movie that doesn't at all behave like, it doesn't follow the rules of the first one at all. And then, you've got a little bit, you've got a few nightmares with Freddy Krueger in them, but by and large, it's him possessing a human body, which is not at all, and Jason, why is he suddenly, this far away from Camp Crystal Lake? Is this, hey, let's, it's possible that they always knew that they were going to write a Freddy movie and a Jason movie, but it's really far away from what came before in the series, and this movie really captures that. Suddenly, it's this, this guy who has to stop a missile hitting the U.S. What does that have to do with Machete? And, you've got all this space stuff, it's just, it feels like they were writing a different movie, and they were like, we need a name for this movie. Let's put Machete in it. And which, again, I'm almost certain that Rodriguez just, well, I mean, occasionally he will he'll want to do one movie and then put someone else in that movie. But I could imagine that he always meant for this to be a Machete movie, and it really captures how these franchises, suddenly there's like, this is a completely different movie. And it's also, I mean, at some point, I think it's interesting that with Freddy Krueger, it was the second movie instead of way down the line. But I still do think that it's an interesting take. And, the rest of the movies, it's just, well, here's a bunch of teenagers, and they're going to dream, and they're going to die in their dreams. And Jason, it's also just, here come a bunch of people to camp, and he's going to kill them at this camp. But, yeah, you've got sooner or later you have to do something really different with the character, or it's going to be the same exact thing. And honestly, I think it would have been kind of boring if the first Machete movie was the Machete movie. We don't need more than one movie that's, I mean, what else is he gonna fight? And how else is, everything that needed to be in a pure Machete movie was in the first Machete movie. And yeah, so here we just have this completely different, and to get back to my notes, basically just this one reference to Mexican workforce in America. Just, it didn't need to be there at all. He could have, it's not as though Mexicans are the only migrant workers in the world, but just, oh, by the way, Mexican labor, and just, and the idea of teleporting away Mexicans to build a space station and a spaceship is just, I mean, there was this really ill-fated mission, space mission, which went wrong because some of the scientists were using the metric system, and the other of the scientists were using the what's it called, empirical measurement, feet and inches and stuff, and they didn't realize that even converting, they're just different enough that it went wrong. If you've got a workforce, many of whom don't speak English, that's gonna go really, really wrong. They're just, yeah, I absolutely love it. It's so, and Osiris returns, and he was killed in a deleted scene, but that wasn't in the movie, so that's not canonical. That's the thing about the first. I really, there are not a lot of deleted scenes. I think it would have been cool for the deleted scenes to be in the movie, but then if Osiris died in canon, then he couldn't return in this, which I'm glad he does. I really love, you get the flashback, and by the time the flashback's over, Machete's already got his hands wrapped around his throat, just, and you've got the, let's see, I mean, Rose McGowan is great in those deleted scenes, and yeah, Osiris has more scenes, and it's actually, I think it's Rose McGowan, who's called Boots McCoy, which only makes sense by the time you've seen her for the last time, where you see, oh, she's got, like, thigh-high boots. It's in knee-high. Anyway, oh, that's why they call her Boots McCoy, but just, yeah, she is the real McCoy. I absolutely love her, and I love her and everything. I think it's too bad. I don't think there's a Rodriguez movie that would not have been improved by at least some Rose McGowan added in there, and Michelle Rodriguez for that matter. But yeah, in the deleted scene, I think it's Rose McGowan who shoots she in the eye. Michelle, who shoots her in the eye. And in the movie, it's Don Johnson, I think. And at first, I was like, oh, so they used the shot of Michelle getting shot. No, they clearly filmed two different versions of this scene. One where it's Rose McGowan and one where it's Don Johnson, because there are like a few lines in at least one of the two, so it's, yeah, definitely not. At most, it's maybe the shot where, like, the effect shot of her losing the eye, but I don't think even that, because if I recall, you can see the arm of the person shooting, and it's very clearly, in one version, Don Johnson's arm with the white, suit kind of thing, and in the other, it's Rose McGowan's arm. I forget if her arms are bare, but it's definitely not a white suit like this, so yeah. But yeah, really, really love, and just, and it is, like, they even say, Osiris is a good guy now, but nope, he's already got his hands around his throat, which is, like, it's super accurate to the character of Machete, it's funny, and it's kind of unexpected, you always have that thing of, like, you expect me to work with the man who killed my brother, and yeah, it's like, no, that's not what's gonna happen here. That's not how this is gonna go. And he, like, this thing, and he's a priest now. It's, that's, yeah. He was the guy who realized that the Machete's brother was a priest, and then he went and tortured him to death. So, no, he's a priest now, you know, and he says, "Oh, I've been cursed ever since then." Just yeah. Did he actually say what the curse entailed? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. I really love all the gratuitous references to Mexican food in these two movies. You know, in the first one, you also actually have a ton like cooked and served, but in this, just keep calling like people taco and saying taco about things. And yeah, Vaz promised me the crown. I've heard that basic line before, but I think this is the first time it was in reference not to being a king, but to being a beauty queen. That's awesome. That's yeah, and she makes a really great femme fatale. I really love the two women taunting each other as they shoot at each other. Will one of you well-paid, well-trained motherfuckers please shoot that? Thank you. And Antonio Banderas, and I really love his character in this, just from the very moment that we see, just, yeah, there are two kinds of people in this world. Those who keep pulling off Mission Impossible style face masks, and those who dig. No more Lady Gaga in the movie, I guess. She gave a very fun hammy performance. Didn't that Border Patrol dude die in the first movie? And he's just inexplicably back now? And I love that Antonio Banderas' character is supposed to be from Canada, and he starts talking like, you know, completely without a Mexican accent. Just, it's so funny. And I mean, I like his character so much more in this than I did in, I think it was the third Expendables movie he was in. You know, where I mean, people have pointed out he's basically playing someone very similar to Puss in Boots, which, I mean, that character was very popular. I didn't personally care that much for him, you know, which is, I mean, I really loved reading the story when I was younger, so I would have really liked to like the character as well, but anyway. Very convenient tunnel entrances and exits. I really like that, like, these, you know, Border Patrol guys, they know where that particular tunnel exit is, and they're just waiting there, you know, with their guns ready so they can shoot. You know, they're not like, let's say, sending a bunch of napalm down the tunnel, or like setting up, you know, I mean, it's not as though you have to go all the way through the tunnel. Machete goes through a different path, you know, so, you know, nope, they make sure that everyone who crosses all the way over is, like, you know, I mean, it's true that part of the tunnel goes through Mexico, so that, or is over the Mexican border, you know, in Mexico, so legally they couldn't do anything to that part, I guess. But that's never stopped them before, you know, so yeah. I really love Michelle's speech to the network, and we get the countdown, only 37 minutes left. And Michelle in a white suit with a white eye patch, very Kill Bill, absolutely love it. And Vaz is wearing this low-key spacesuit with a cape. And now everyone is in a spacesuit. I never saw this. Machete has a lot more lines in this one than the first one, I feel like. I like this change a lot. In the Midnight Screens, they talk about how for, like, a bunch of the movie he doesn't really speak. I guess that's true, but then he also has, like, entire speeches in this, and just, I get why he didn't say a lot in the first, and I think that worked well for that movie, but I'm really glad he talks more in this. Yeah, and just in general, I really love Danny Trejo. Then what good are you? I really expected Gibson to shoot him at this point, like in Payback. Seemed like a really clear reference. And, you know, Vaz gets out crap. Give me a moment. I'm going to see if I can remember crap. I'm going to have to just refer to it as the Klingon weapon. You know, I don't remember what it's called, unfortunately. And, you know, Machete flamethrowers Vaz in the face. And you know, Miss Antonio shoots out Luz's other eye. And Vaz is still alive, and he puts on the Dr. Doom mask. And I did make that note before the midnight screenings. This might be my favorite Doctor Doom character. And, it's not technically Doctor Doom, but yeah, I think I like him better than Julian McMahon and the dude in the 2015 movie. And they hold on to straps like it's a bus. Again, just the contrast here that, make sure you hold on to the straps. And you see why, because if they don't hold on to the straps, they are definitely, they're going to be banging against but it's still, he didn't put seats in this thing, it's like, the that's really funny that they would actually just put straps like it's a bus. Like, nobody likes to be holding the strap. We do it because there's only so much room for seats, and some people can stand while other people will more need to sit. But it's literally that it's a spacecraft, and they're taking off and they're just holding on to the straps. That's, yeah. And Michelle still has some fight in her. I really love their fighting. Midnight Screens points out, it's Rodriguez already did this in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I love that scene too. But I mean, ultimately, I think the scenes are different enough. There's a little bit in this fight also of her like hearing. She hears the crown, but yeah, ultimately, here it's a hand-to-hand fight. And yeah, and sometimes she also gets like, she can hear where the kick or hit is going to come from, so she blocks it, And in the, Once Upon a Time, I suppose I shouldn't spoil it in this video. All I've said so far is that at some point in that movie, at least one blind person has an action scene, But yeah, I feel like they play so differently, and I do just think it's just really funny to me. In the first one, it gives her this really iconic look. And it's also this thing of like, she's shot in the eye, but she survives. She just loses an eye from it, But then in this one, she's shot in the other eye. She loses another eye and is like, it's just, again, I did not see that coming, which it's just, that's really funny to me, that just, yeah, because the first one is like, man, she's still fighting, she's such a badass, and then, I guess it's, oh, nope, she's still fighting, just, yeah, and she catches the crown and throws it back, and it turns out to be sharp enough to go and like, yeah, ask the last guy who shot my eye out. And I really loved her like sliding in and punching, just, yeah, that's funny. I am absolutely going to hell. And Machete rides the bomb Strangelove style. And Michelle is frozen in carbonite, flipping off, yeah. And Machete cuts the blue wire, and that's all it took. And then it's like skipping a rock across a lake or something, and just, yeah, it's, and Osiris said that earlier. It's always about cutting the blue wire, isn't it, or something like that. You maniacs! You blew it up! And Elon Musk, was it Rodriguez who talked him into shooting a car into space? Because thinking about, with a connection between the two, I can't help but, yeah. And a machete on machete fight with, yeah, going into the trailer at the, very end there, machete on machete fight, because of the cloning machine. And I guess Michelle gets at least one eye back for the third one. I think she only had one in the trailer, and she definitely had at least one. But, considering that Vaz can clone entire people, there is no reason why she couldn't get at least one eye back. But at that point, it's kind of an asshole move to not give her both eyes back. But I guess it's possible that he gives her both eyes back, and then she loses one again or something. Just, yeah. Honestly, it would almost be like if she loses either, if she loses one or both, and then like goes through a machine and then comes out both eyes intact. And I'm not gonna say what that's a reference to, but you know, because I don't want to spoil that. And I'm really glad that according to the trailer, the prostitutes will be back. Honestly, I really hope that they don't recast them, but I could see how they might have to. You know, some of these people do have careers of their own. You know, it's pretty absurd that they managed to get so many into this one. You know, same with Sin City, but both Sin Cities. But the yeah, I hope that they keep them. I really enjoyed all of them, and I quite like the climax to this movie as well. Ultimately, I mean, the first one's climax is definitely bigger. Yeah, I think it is at least somewhat better. It's one of those. If I have one complaint about Rodriguez, that again, I've said a lot of negative things about him in videos past, but if I hang on to one thing, I don't think he always manages to do scope well enough, which is